for the bridge. And the bridge would be this: how can you get in touch with innate? What is the process? Is there support? Is there guidance? Where do you begin? This channel will not answer those, but it will give you the concepts for you to work with that might help you to achieve your goal. Intent. What do you think about when you think of intent? You intend to do something might mean a week from Thursday or in 4 years. That's not the intent we talk about. Sometimes you intend to do something and then you do it and then you unintend it. Well, that didn't work. I'll intend to do something else and you'll unintend that. Serial intention. That's not what we're talking about. It's a difficult concept, but I'm going to give it to you. This is a kind of pure intent that when you begin it, other forces take over and accomplish what you could not do yourself. Intent is a key. It starts a process that you are not in charge of, and that is hard for the human being to grasp. Why is it hard? When you swallow food, are you in charge of your digestion? No. You're in charge of putting the food in. The digestion is in charge of itself. That's innate. Why is this hard for you? Is it because you believe that you have to control it all the way along the way? So if you're going to make a spiritual intention, you want to know what the next step is there, and then the next step, and the next step, so you're in full control? Or is it good enough to start the process and let the love of God do the rest? That requires some surrender. Oh, mature one. Intent. Think of it this way. You're standing on the edge of the pool. You have four-dimensional intent to jump in the water. That intent then manifests itself in action. You jump as hard and as high as you can. At that moment, it's pure intent. There is no turning back. And the energies around you take you to the pool, and that's gravity. Once you leap, you don't go back. And this is the metaphor of pure intent. 22 years ago, I gave my partner a concept, and we wrote it in book 1. Released years after the concept was given to my partner, where he struggled with it and would not release it because of the word implant. 3 years, he would not release it. I gave it to him in '89. Published the book in '93. Took him 3 years after I gave it to him, thinking about it, dismissing it, saying it was not correct, wanting us to channel it again. It came back the same word every time. Implant. I remember him pleading with us in meditation, saying that is something that light workers are taking out of people, not putting in people. You can't use that word, Kryon, he said. And I said, that is the word. It is defined as the implantation of pure intent to change your cellular structure. And you can't go back. And the word was given so that people would think twice before they did it, because you don't try it any more than you try to jump in the pool. Once you've jumped, you're in the pool. I give you this information so you will understand the profundity of the beginning of the process. And there are those who say, all right, how do I begin? I just told you. You want it clearer than this, all right? Becoming more academic, more linear. You may sit and say to innate, which is your body, which is on your side and always listening, dear cellular structure, dear Creator inside, I intend purely to change. And I will accept that which is a force which will take my intention into a manifestation state. And wherever that takes me, I will celebrate it, for I have given pure intent for it. And wherever that takes me, I know it'll be correct and proper. And I'll try to understand. And it may take me to places which are dark for a moment, and I'll try to understand. And if this intent changes my vibratory level, I know there'll be a space of uncomfortability, and I'll try to understand. And I will walk around expecting solutions and knowing that I am changing, and I will celebrate it every moment of the day. That is intent. And there's something that happens you should know about, and there's no name for it. We're not going to give it a law of spiritual physics name. We're not. Because then it becomes a buzzword, and then it'll go into a list. And we're not going to do it. We're just going to tell you the truth. That when you give pure intent, there's something that happens. This spiritual physics of your higher self, of the body's innate, of your DNA itself, waiting to hear these words, with your permission, implantation of permission to change, a process begins that you are not in charge of. Energies that have not yet been explained to you keep you up at night. And you start to feel it. Dear ones, there is no delete key in human consciousness. You cannot unknow something because you want to unknow it. Once the process starts and there's revelation, you cannot unknow it. Once the process begins to change you and that around you, you cannot go back. Oh, you can deny it ever happened, and then you're in unbalance, in denial. You can pretend it didn't happen. You're in imbalance, in denial. Do you see the importance of pure intent? Don't do it unless you mean it. But old souls, they mean it because they know that's why they came. That's number one. I'm going to give you 3 things. That's number 1. I have done my best to give you the linearity and the academics and the intellectualization of intent. It's up to you to go to the next level. It's not linear. It's a concept. Number 2, I would like to discuss with you more about this intelligent physics. What is the energy of the planet now compared to 20 years ago? There's something happening. There is a support system that is beginning. A support system you've never had. It's just beginning. And some of you are starting to feel it. And we mentioned it, and those things which are conceived in compassion are going to work. Those things which are conceived in unity are going to work. And they didn't necessarily work 20 years ago. Something is happening. There's a cooperative Gaia approach here. Something is happening. It is actually allowing light workers to hold their light. Now I speak to those light workers who have been part of this, what you would call old soul revolution, for up to 40 years. And you've fought the good fight, haven't you? And you've had the battle, and you've known what it's like to walk into energy that affected you. You've had to be careful where you went, because there was darkness that was too strong. You had to be careful who you healed. You had to be careful about the unbalanced person that was with you, because it was a fight. And some of you were drained and had to have recovery. And that was the energy then, and I know it. And it's not that way now. Some years ago, we started to tell you that your light is stronger than any darkness. Some years ago, we started to give you the principle of the light worker, the lighthouse. All of this to tell you that there's an intelligent physics which will take whatever you do now and amplify it. Amplify it. But more than that, there is now beginning to be a system of support. It's not just about energy that's going to work for you. There's a system of support. All right. My partner is saying linearize it, intellectualize it, make it academic. These are concepts. The tree is life. It does not have the kind of a consciousness of will that you do, but it is life. It has life force. It has reproduction. It lives or it dies. The tree is in the forest, not knowing whether it will be a tree for long. It's brittle and fragile at first, but the forest supports it. For the tree finds out quickly that there's dark and light, there's sunshine, there's soft earth where the roots can go, there are insects that will actually feed it, and it somehow feeds them. There's an ecology, a system that supports the tree. The tree does not stand alone. And soon there's a forest that has grown up seemingly against all odds because there is a system. And how did that system get there? Carefully. Through a long time of shift and change in order to fine-tune it so it was perfect. Take the same tree and put it in the desert, it dies. Same tree, same life force. It won't survive, for the system is missing. The light worker is now in a position where the system is beginning to work. And here's what it means, and my partner says, become more linear and more academic. You give intent. The process begins. Like the tree, you're planting yourself in a system of manifestation. The system begins to support you more than any time in history of humanity. And the support comes in synchronicity. You can count on it. Synchronicity is that against all odds you meet those other individuals or run into situations which know you and help you, and you have it in plenty of time. Taking away fear. Taking away fear. Do you know what happens when you fear? You break synchronicity completely. Did you know that? Here comes pure intent. Here comes the system, and you say is the tree, but what if it doesn't work? What if the soil isn't soft? What if the sun doesn't shine? What if? What if? And humans do this, and it interrupts the synchronicity. The system can't work when you're in denial of your power. Can't work. And so what am I teaching here? You got to trust the system. You give intent. And here comes this intelligent physics. Your body starts to react. Things start to happen with you. The quantumness of you actually cooperates in the quantumness of Gaia with other human beings, and you create the fields you can't see. And you run into people you never thought you'd meet. And together you solve each other's problems. That's just the beginning. It's a system. Beautiful it is. That's number 2. You are supported in ways you were never supported before. It's time to try things again which you've discounted could ever happen. What is it you tried and didn't work? And now you realize the timing was horrible and it should have been now. Why don't you try it again? The system is starting to be in place. That's good news. Do you realize what I'm saying? All that you have asked for regarding the shift of this planet Earth and the vibratory changes that you have wanted are starting to fall into place. Look around the earth. Look what's happening. Civilizations, cultures, casting away the old, not even knowing where they're going, but sure it'll be better than where they came from. That's new. There's a system beginning on the planet. That's new. Number 3. I've just shown my partner what it is. And he's saying to me, don't go there unless you're linear. I can't. Because the process is not linear. It's called guidance. Here's the question asked by every human being who hears the message, and it says, all right, I've given intent. I'm part of the system, and here I sit. How do I know what to do? He says, be linear. All right. Guidance is quantum. Therefore, it is not going to appear to the human being as the human being expects it. If you want guidance from Spirit, what in 3D do you expect? Signs? Voices? Writing? Something that you would recognize in your three-dimensional reality and act upon. And you want steps for it. How many steps? What should I do? How can I create the energy so that I can know where I'm going and what I'm doing? How can I tell yes or no? And that's a big one. So we begin. It is not going to be in 4D. Get used to it. It will not be in 4D. The artist is here. Or Leah. And she has said to you that she awakened one day and the painting in her mind was already on the canvas. Did she hear voices? Did she have signs? Were there emotions? And the answer is no. There is a part of the brain that you call creative and we call divine. It is the creative source in you. It's the only part that you can feel every day. It makes up stories. It sings songs. It's your imagination, and you all have your stories. I know this. Especially active in the inner child. It's where the picture was for Orlia. And she saw it so clearly it was already on the canvas. All it took was for her to manifest the physical part of putting the paint there. Greatest sculptors in the world, looking at blocks of granite, seeing what has to be removed in order to create that which is remaining, which is art. Where did that come from? It is a quantum concept. It is not linear. No artist paints by the numbers. And you're not going to get guidance that way either. Guidance comes from the same place Orlia's painting came from. It's going to appear to you all at once, and it's going to be so quick that you're going to discount it. And what you have to learn is to exercise the muscle that holds it there. And this comes with patience and time. How do you hold a fleeting concept of art? Trust first intuition. Pay attention to flashes of thought which would make you turn left or right, which you would formerly discount as noise. You learn to work with it. So you cannot have a linear answer to how am I going to get guidance on what to do past what I am telling you now. Learn to pay attention to that which your creative mind gives you and you tend to discount as your imagination, because that's where it is. That's where the higher self talks to the human being. That's where you feel loved. 4 years ago, my partner crossed a barrier. Almost 5 now. Where I asked him whether he would like me to be with him all the time instead of when he sits down and channels. And the first question he asked is, what will I lose? What will I lose? Oh, how linear of him. And you know what that represents? It represents linear, three-dimensional thought. If you're going to get something good, something's got to go, right? If you get something, there's only room for so much matter, right? So if you're going to take on something else is you're going to lose in order to get. How 3D of you. I had to train him. It's a win-win, because the energy of this planet is creating something that you've never seen before. You're not going to lose anything. You're going to have it added unto you in greater measure. And today, he walks with me. And he can access me whenever he wishes, when appropriate. And I'll be there. And what this took from him was training to open that creative part of his mind and keep it open. Constant, continuous, intuitive thought. And he found out it's a bigger tool than he thought it would be. Not only does he get Kryon, he could even paint if he wanted to. Don't try it, my partner. I don't want you there. I want you here in the chair. The creative ability is wide open for channeling and for more. Wide open. And now he has no trouble with direction, and he has no trouble with guidance. And when those ask him, how can I do it? He'll answer them and he'll say, you just do. I cannot explain it any better than I have. And maybe there'll come a time when it can be drawn or even painted. And maybe my partner will do that. But right now, it is a concept, and it's real. If you want to start the process, start with intent. Don't worry about what happens after that, but make it pure. You mean it, you can't go back. Next, understand that the energy of this planet is in support of you. Expect solutions. Do you know what's going to happen when you're in that state? You become a creator. Manifestation starts to visit you. But the rules are the same. You cannot sit and wait for it to land upon you. You must step out, push on the doors, and see what works. And we say it again. Here are your instructions for pushing on the door. If you get resistance, walk the other way. Don't push it. Don't force it. That is a sign. All of these things working together will steer you into the appropriate place you want to be in. That's the earth supporting you. Watch what you think and what you say, because you are in creative mode. If you say, I'm always tired, the universe will be happy to make you always tired. If you say, I knew that would happen, it always does, the universe will cooperate and it will always happen. Do you understand what I'm saying? You can create whatever you want. Now you have to start thinking differently. The man cuts you off on the freeway. Think differently. Bless him. I'm sorry he's having a bad day. Can you do that? And if you don't, you're going to manifest very clearly what you don't want. Fear begets fear, anger begets anger. You can generate them, manifest them, put them upon yourself. You're a grand creator, especially in creation mode, because the earth is going to support what you want. Finally, guidance is going to come from the creative center of your mind, that part that paints pictures, sings songs, does poetry. That is the message, dear ones, this day. Now, what are you going to do with it? You're going to say this, I know. Well, it all sounds good. I think I'll try it. A week from Thursday. I'm busy. Why don't you do it now when the entourage is here? Why don't you do it now so I can watch it? Is that perhaps why you came? Make it simple. I intend to start this process and I'm going to do my best. And some are saying, I've got to listen to this channeling again. I've got to be sure. And then if you are one saying that you didn't get it, what I'm telling you is you start the ball rolling and it rolls by itself. Do you understand this? It rolls by itself. That's the love of God. So you can start the ball rolling tonight on the healing you came for, and not wait until you're alone someplace where you think it's safe to be weird. That's why I'm here. For I am Kryon in love with humanity, but I am aware of the quickening. And you've never heard me say it before. Do it now. Don't wait. For now is a good time to plant the seeds of peace on this world. And so many generations from now, you may actually meet your Pleiadian brothers and sisters. When they come down and they look just like you. And they say, job well done. And that is where it's going. Light worker. And so it is. Hi, everybody. I'm Lee Carroll. I am the original channel of Kryon.
You've taken in a lot this morning. And if you would allow that to sort of settle towards the back of your mind and just find a quiet place in the front of your mind, begin to breathe into your body, your mind, and your spirit, finding a place where there is peace, where there is an opening, where there is a connection to the field, to the energy, and you feel it around you and you feel it inside of you. And you know that we can build that. We can build on it. And that is why we have these channels, these teachings. That is why the beautiful beings of Adironda and the Council of Light and Kryon come to us from the other side of the veil. They come in service to humanity. And for us, all that we need to do is ready ourselves, is open ourselves, and give ourselves to these few moments when that love, when those messages and the honoring of the human come from across the veil through Adironda and Kryon.
So it is good day to you again. Here we are again in Grand Rapids. We are honored to be here. We know, we see, we sense the emotions are running very high, eh? Yes, the energy is very compressed. It is like you think it could be compact, but it is actually compressed. The energy that is moving through this time, this space, this energy is compressing in upon itself. So now it is so important for you to take measures, steps, to keep yourself aligned. And when you keep yourself aligned, dearest divine light plurker, yes, play plus work equals plurk, you are light plurkers, and with that energy, we will ask a few things of you. Is that all right? For us to just ask you to breathe first. We feel your energy. It is high in expectation, wondering what will happen next. We do not believe that anyone can predict exactly what will happen next. There are many, as in Kryon or us, that have gone into the energy of what is happening now and how it will come to pass in the future. However, the predictions are not exact. So, as it is right now, what we are asking you, dearest, is how can you flow through that energy in that slipstream as we talked of yesterday? You see, that slipstream is the flow of the universe moving with your body to help lift it up, to help acknowledge that energy, to help accelerate your flow in that slipstream. So the few things that we would ask for you to do are quite simple. You know what we're going to say, eh? we hear you are going to asking us, well, you know, you're going to say meditate, meditate, meditate. Yes. Set a time to be still. Set a time to be still and to yourself. Now, you can be walking meditation, you can be washing dishes meditation, but it is still a time when your mind is actually still. We like setting a timer for our vessel, Marilyn, because she has 10,000 thoughts running through her mind at any given moment and has a difficult time letting go of time, not to be redundant. But we set a timer for her of 15 or 20 or 30, sometimes an hour, where she just sits and focuses on breathing, or maybe brings in an I am consciousness with the words I am. You can do that for 5 minutes. You can do that for 10. It does not matter the length. What matters is the depth. That time that you invest in yourself, dearest, is time well spent. It increases your immune system. Yes. It lowers your blood pressure. Or if your blood pressure is already low, it accelerates it into alignment that is perfect for you. It allows the stress that is coming at you from sometimes seemingly all directions to be still for a few moments. And that actually lowers the stress. Scientifically, you saw it in the movie, The One Field. That lowers the stress amongst you. So therefore, that reverberates out in the stress for all. It seems simple, doesn't it? To spend 5 or 10 or 15 minutes a day and just breathing. And yet some of you don't do that. Why is that? Is it because you don't have time? You don't take time? It's just because you're so important in other aspects of your life that they will not allow you that 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day just to be with yourself? Well, quite honestly, dearest, we're not buying it. You can't think of any excuse you choose. Write them all down. Write all those excuses down. I don't have time. I've got to take care of the kids, got to get ready for work, got to get in the shower, got to go work out, got to do this, got to do that, got to do this, got to do that. Write all those down. And then read them out loud. And when you do, after each sentence, we want you to say, that's ridiculous. Or better yet, you read them out loud and get your friend after each sentence to say, that's ridiculous. There's only one person that is truly in charge of your time, and that is you. Do you wish to boost your immune system by fear? Do you wish to boost your immune system by watching the news and looking at all of the things that may or may not be true to you? Or do you wish to buy into people's drama stories? Or do you wish to be you? In peace. Start with stillness. Now again, you don't have to sit in the yoga position and with your legs crossed in the lotus position and your hands like this. You can be walking. You can be doing anything as long as it creates a stillness within your mind. And that stillness, for even a few moments, will come back to you 10,000-fold. In being able to acknowledge and understand what is happening in this world today. A while back, many months ago, we said, be prepared. Be prepared for anything. You are the basketball player on the court, pivoting in any direction, huh? Yes, you are. And just as soon as you think you've got things figured out, pivot. That is why it is so important to breathe into that element and flow of the slipstream. That is why you are actually being lifted by that stream of consciousness. And with that stream of consciousness, you are receiving many, many tools. That stream of consciousness is a part of your own innate abilities, your own ability to be of service, your own ability to acknowledge the things that you love. And honestly, dearest, it's time to rearrange those things that you don't love. You see, this world is changing whether you like it or not. Shift happens, and it is shifting in many different directions. So you get the opportunity to pivot right along with that shift. And as you pivot, you feel yourself being lifted into that slipstream. And as you are lifted, you are expanding your love in your heart. You're expanding that frequency that is you. And by you, dearest light plurker, expanding your frequency as the old soul that you are, bringing forth the wisdom from those ancients, bringing forth the wisdom from the indigenous that you have connected with in your land, your innate abilities are expanding. Your sensitivities are getting stronger. Your clarification is accelerating. We hear someone say, "Oh, I don't want that. I don't want to know what's going on." Does that serve you? For by watching the news or this or that, you may still not know what's going on. That is why we are asking you to practice going within and finding that core of your energy that is your intuitive, innate guidance. It does not communicate loudly, so that is why we say go into the stillness. It does not matter if you call it meditation. Maybe you're sitting on your deck and watching the river go by, but you're still. Maybe you're walking around the neighborhood, but you're still. You're going inside asking, what is my next step? Is it directly in front of me? Is it to the side? Is it a step back? How can I be lifted in that slipstream of energy? That's the key, dearest. And as you ask, so shall it be answered. You just simply may get to be still enough to hear that answer or sense that answer. It may not be words. That is the key. That is a bit of what we teach tomorrow. That is the key in stillness. Is not to expect that information to be like any information that you've sensed before. Because it is the information of pure love for you. That may not be common for you. So as you go into that stillness in preparation for these times that are coming, receive that pure love that will indeed enhance the pure potentiality of your innate. That is the promise. We love you deeply. We see you. We know you. We hear you. We honor you. But most of all, we simply love you and bid you namaste. Namaste.
Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. This is channel number 3 of 4. The other 2 are very findable, and I would advise to listen to those to better understand this one. The ones that came first set the stage for a series of 4 called the Love Machine. Everything is metaphoric. So many of the messages that we give to you, personal and public, are filled with energies which we have defined as the third language. Messages on messages. Nothing is literal. It's all expansive, dear ones, because the language of spirit is expansive. It's filled with that which is multidimensional and that which has layers of understanding and beautiful. The love machine. Love is that from the Creator. The machine is a word that means there is something that is in progress, in work on this planet that has an outcome and a reason. Parts that move in a succinct way that are logical and respond to the operator, which is you, not spirit. We have said for many, many years that the human brain is not the final organ of logic. It's not where it's all done. That really there is a triad, that the heart and the pineal are involved in all of these things. They have to be. They're the ones that talk to the Akash. They're the ones that recognize the third language. The brain, that's the computer. That's the one that is survival. The ones with the highest intellect are using their pineal, not their brain. The ones who are using the highest intellect are using their intuition, not their brain. The intuition that would say this is correct, this is not correct, or perhaps there's more, and here's what it might look like. We left off on the last channel telling you about the history of the planet, the 200,000 year ago event, where those from the stars came, which became that which is your creation story, your Adam and Eve story. That those who came, you could not tell the difference between those and what you now call angels. You still can't. Because they were ascended beings in charge of the physics around them. They did not need craft to get here. That's three-dimensional thinking. We told you that eventually consciousness allies with physics, and that is mastery. Practiced even today in some of the higher gurus who no longer need to eat. They're here, they're on the planet, they're actually practicing the very things we have told you. They're the forerunners of what you will see someday, is the connection of consciousness and ascension. We told you that Lemuria was the center because it was isolated. It became the center of teaching. But there were many places where the star mothers taught. Lemuria is talked about specially because it was isolated to the degree it was never interfered with. You could never come back to it. And so it was special and purer than the rest. And because of that, it's the only one that had to be then stopped and terminated at a certain point in the teaching area, and that's when it sunk. We've given you this information so many times before that it did not sink because of plate tectonics activity, but because of volcanic activity. The very kinds of things that happened in the country where I sit in Yellowstone happened there. The bubble of magma which had pushed up the mountains subsided. And those left, and that was approximately 15,000 years ago, but it had been teaching for a lot longer than that. The teaching actually began 50,000 years ago. And we talked about why that was so precious too, and why it was needed, just like your children need to be taught. You received souls then, dear ones. That's the Adam and Eve story. That's creation. You received souls. And the whole idea of a tree of knowledge, it had to do with teaching. What was sacred, what was not, how spirit works, what's next, in order to get you to the place where you could start choosing your lives for yourself. You had no Akashic record, none at all. You had really no life experience, none at all. It was the beginning of the beginning. There had to be teaching. Missionaries in certain belief systems understand this, because when they go into tribes, they have to start at the beginning. They have to explain that which is the creative source and all these things that the tribes don't already know. It's just an example of when you have a civilization that literally knows nothing about what you're trying to teach. You have to start at the beginning. The Lemurian teaching wheel was the beginning. There were many wheels and offshoots from that, and we told you that, and we have said that before. But this story starts when Lemuria stops. And what I want to tell you is that the history of this planet for the last 30,000 years has been remarkable and unknown. Almost completely unknown. And so when I talk about it now, and the grandness of it, and the mystery of it, and the numbers of it, it's all new. My partner has taught it. He has indicated things about it. I've channeled about it. But if you have just come upon this channel, this may be brand new to you and very eye-rolling, because it is not represented in any of your history, any of your mainstream science, which has it completely and totally wrong. This doesn't make them uneducated, dear ones, or anything like that. It just means that they're grasping at the straws that they see now. Here is going to be the test of your science. When you start discovering things that do not match the model of what you've been taught, what will you do? Will you quickly bury them in the sand? Or will you be open for a new kind of history? Here's what I want to tell you. This intervention that we have been speaking about has cycles. And the cycles go like this. That each civilization on this planet is given approximately 5,000 years to see if they develop. But there's more. Because there's a cycle of consciousness that you don't know about yet. And as a sociologist are only beginning to hint at. And here it is. How long does it take a civilization before it destroys itself? Through either inactivity or war or pandemic. How long does it take? And that is cyclical and has an answer. And sociologists are starting to hint at it. Is there a cycle of humans that they can only last so long before they go into dysfunction? Unless they grow up, unless a consciousness influence happens, how long do they have? It's a good question. I'll give you the answer. 5,125 years. Now, some of you may recognize that number. I'll tell you why in a moment. Here's something that you need to know. There have been 5 civilizations before you on this planet. 5 completely different civilizations before you. You have participated in number 5. If you ask the experts, they will say that civilization as you know it is only 6,000 years old. They will point to the Egyptians as being one of the oldest, the pyramids being 5,000 years old. If you go back a little further with the languages of Sanskrit and cuneiform, you go into the Indus Valley, it's pushing it, but maybe 6,000. And before that, there was nothing. That's foolishness. That's just yours, dear ones. You don't know about the one before that, and the one before that, and the one before that. Oh, but you will. Because as your technology improves and gets better, you'll be able to see. They'll be exposed. They're being exposed even now. You find places where you dig down and there are structures that shouldn't be there, built by people who shouldn't have been there, with languages you don't recognize, with geometry that's too good for the time, with alignments to the planets before they are supposed to know even about planets. And you'll have no explanation. Let me give you a little scenario that's kind of fun. The Egyptians, with their 5,000-year-old civilization, one of the temples they built was Abydos. Beautiful. It has things there that no other temple has. They're very proud of that, the age of it, all the history of it, and you go and you visit. But the Egyptians had no idea when they built it on another city, which is now being exposed. Go behind Abydos, if you'd like to, and see another city which has been carbon dated at 10,000 years old. They're not talking about that because it violates everything they've learned and teach in the Cairo University. 6 civilizations. 6? What about 6? You said 5. Well, that's because they all had a time limit and they all failed. Something happened that they had to start again, of their own making or with Gaia's help. And you were scheduled to that too. It was your own schedule. It was your own schedule. You have free choice. Did you read it in your scripture? You weren't going to last after the year 2000. They're going to turn on the lights and everybody was going to go home. That was what was going to happen. It's in your scripture. Read it. That didn't happen. You survived it. None of the others did. And in 2012, interesting. That's when you began number 6. One of the highest civilizations in consciousness that will exist on this planet. What is the duration of the Mayan calendar? 5,125 years. It represented the last civilization. It's part of a divisible by 5 of 26,000-year wobble of the planet. 5 civilizations. Each had their own calendar. Start doing the numbers, you'll start seeing there may be some sense in all of this, especially with what they're finding. I want to close the channel with a plea. I'm not going to explain what the 6 were. Number 6 is you now. What the 5 past ones were or how they came and went. I started and will continue in an island in a beautiful lake in Germany. You can find that channel. It's the only time I've talked about it. But right now, it's just the facts. Here is my plea. Dear ones, so many of you, including the historians, have a bias. And the bias goes like this. That the further in history you find humans, the less intelligent they are. Until you finally get to the caveman, who you think is grunting to their partner and has no language. Oh, you would be shocked to know that some of these civilizations before yours did better than you're doing. had better mathematics than you do, have figured out things that you haven't. The plea is this: to look at history differently and know that as far back as you can find civilization, you will find people just like you, thinking just like you, as smart as you are. They didn't have the inventions you have, and that's the only difference. They did things that you're doing today without them. Sometimes they were even smarter. They had elegant museums. They had libraries. They had their own ways. They had orality. They knew so much about so much. And it was lost every single time they started again. You're going to find some of those things. And you're not going to understand it because of the bias that says, well, they couldn't have been that smart. Oh, yes, they were. They were much smarter than you were in many areas. They were not impressed with having 10 fingers and toes like you were. Their math was based 4 instead of 5. You only have 2 factors in your math. They had more than 4. They were able to let the math speak to them and give them an elegance you still haven't seen. They knew how not to overpopulate their area. You haven't figured that out yet. There are so many things that they could teach you if you could talk to them. Oh, but you were them, dear ones. It's in your Akash. That will start being remembered as well. Remembering the things that worked, the ideas to come, and that's the next channel. What's next? In number 6, where you are now. You sit in a reboot where you can get to know each other better, where things are starting to examine themselves and things are starting to crawl out of the corners of blackness and show themselves. So you'll see what you don't want anymore. Solutions are afoot to problems that have been with you for hundreds of years. We'll talk about that next. The history of humanity is far grander than you know, older than you think, beautiful. And someday you'll be studying it in this way. You can't help it. It won't be esoteric. You can hold it in your hand when you start digging. Some of it has survived very well and been preserved. You just haven't seen it yet, but you will. All of the things I tell you now come to a grand conclusion. And the next channel talks about it and who you really are. The only civilization so far on this planet not to have destroyed themselves after 5,125 years and are standing at the cusp of what's next that other planets have seen and gone to. And that's why I'm here, to celebrate and help and to begin to work with the nodes and the nulls that are starting to push grandness onto this planet. Higher consciousness will be the result. I'll be back. And so it is. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching this. I wanted to tell you this is a little time sensitive. Greetings, dear ones. I'm Kryon of Magnetic Service. My partner gets excited because I show him the future. The difficulty is always the same. You want it now. Old soul, there's no hurry because you're going to be here to see it. You may look a little different, but you're going to be here to see it. And what I mean by this is the lineage of those and the Akash of those in this room is going to be part of the future. No matter how old you are at this point in time, no matter what you think that you're a part of at this time, I would like to tell you that the old soul is going to continue. And that this transition to a new energy on the planet is temporary. You're going to start to see results. There's a fast track system that is going to echo what you want. Consciousness has energy. The energy is seen and measured and is part of the fast track system. There is a system in place to give back to you on the grids what you are endeavoring to create as an old soul. We told you this before. An old soul carries more conscious energy weight than a new one does. The Akash absolutely has what I will call stripes. What I mean by that is you become a weight and authority on the consciousness of the planet because of your experience. You weigh in harder than a newbie does, more profound than anyone else. A group of old souls in prayer is unstoppable. Almost. And I want to talk about that. I would love to give you physics that you've not discovered yet that helps you to understand some things that are puzzles. I may try. But before I do that, I want to give you this. Dear ones, you're old souls. In this room, you can feel it. What you think and what you do creates the timing of peace on earth. Some of you will have the opportunity to take the high road when all you've done is be forced into the low one. And I may talk cryptically, but I am talking to those in the room. Opportunities given that you didn't expect, in areas you didn't plan would be there, and a decision that you will make actually helping the planet incrementally, one by one, because you see things differently. There's an awakening process in all of you, and you can feel it. And one of the attributes of this awakening process that I want you to look for is joy. The creative source is benevolent. It likes to laugh. There's no greater healing emotion on the planet than laughter and celebration. I want you to look for that. I want you to look for that in ceremony. I want you to change what you do in ceremony. The idea that you would gather together and somehow look at the ground and close your eyes and pretend to be mournful because you're in touch with spirit is old energy. Are you understanding this? What about a celebration where you tell a joke? What about a celebration where in order to get something going, you might even tickle each other's feet? Something to create a celebration of joy and laughter while you go into a meditative state that will amplify it greatly. Old energy says you have to be depressed. At least that's the way it looks. We look down in a meditative circle, nobody says anything, there's always quiet, and you're all depressed. What else are we supposed to think? Do you laugh during your meditations? No. Does it disturb the energy? Oh, the teachers will say, oh yes, don't disturb the energy with laughter. Why don't you try it and see what it does to the energy? You might have healings right there, right then. That's what I want to tell you right now. There are some of you who needed to hear this because you're invested in creating ceremony. Others of you in the room will have choices to make soon, which I will call high and low road choices. Same old, or something you know is better, but a little harder and more risky. I'm going to tell you, there's a hand that's ready to hold yours in the risk department when it comes to light. You understanding this? There are puzzles in spirituality, but they're not. I'll open a door just slightly tonight. Just slightly. Trying to explain to you something my partner has given you before. When we say that physics is consciousness and consciousness is physics, we're talking about energy. What is your idea when somebody says, did you feel the energy of the prayer? Did you feel the energy of the meditation? Are these just words that pass through your ears and they're metaphysical and esoteric and isn't it lovely? Or is there substance? How do you define energy? Is it something you feel? Is it something you measure? Let's talk very, very simply about energy. Long ago, basic science realized that energy is not destroyable. You cannot destroy it. You can change it. And in certain situations where energy meets energy, there will be then another energy, but it is not creating new energy, it's simply morphing. In some places of the universe, it gathers energy from another place. It looks like it is creating, it is not. It's simply moving it around. You might say energy then is absolute. There are those who would say there is no more energy in the universe today than at the moment of what you called the Big Bang, which, by the way, there was no such thing. There was a beginning, and there was an energetic start, but it was not an explosion and it was not a bang. It was a quantum event of an intersection of what we have called dimensional membranes. We don't expect you to understand that. We don't want you to. It's not needed. But energy is something you should be able to feel, measure, work with, compute, and predict. On the planet right now, you work with certain kinds of energy very well. You understand them. You can compute them. You can measure them. You can predict them. You use them in your machines. That's energy. You create energy in order to fuel your house. That's energy. But when it comes to consciousness, you don't think of it the same way. So tonight, right now, I want you to think of it the same way. Is it possible that there is a system that is a multidimensional system where what you create with your thoughts is as palatable as an electric current? We say palatable, that means that is digestible to your consciousness logic. That's what we say palatable, just like food. You can eat it, enjoy it, it becomes yours. It's palatable to think that your consciousness could be measured. Is it possible you could have a consciousness meter measuring that which you think, not on any scale that you have on this planet at the moment, nothing like you have. I'm talking about a quantum measuring device. A way you could see the energy you create when you focus your mind. If you had that right now, it'd change everything. You have a group of light workers and you're going to concentrate on creating rain. Now don't do that, because you're going to get it anyway. But just as a trial, would it make a difference to Gaia? Now I want you to follow this, because there's physics involved. The earth has consciousness that is tuned to humanity, and we have taught this to you before. Gaia is starting to raise its consciousness, giving you back what you're starting to give to it, which is not war and hatred. Gaia is starting to change. The crystalline grid is starting to change, giving you remembrances of good things and not drama. We have told you this. All that is around you that is in support of you, and it's starting to move. So let's say you pray for rain and you need it. Together you create energy that is quantum. That is to say, it works with quantum particles. The definition of quantum is a particle which is multidimensional, which is called quantum. We're using the word as an overview to mean meta-dimensional things, meaning multidimensional things. What happens? All the energy that you're creating goes into the planet. Will it create rain? I want to ask you a question. Thousands of years, indigenous did rain dances. I want to ask you a question. Were they doing something, or was it dumb? Was it symptom? Was it mythology? Were they celebrating the gods in the sky? Were they desperate because their crops were dying? Or did it work? And I will tell you this, dear ones, they skewed the curve of randomness when it came to the weather and created the rain. It would literally be taken from one place, moved to their place, and rain. And they did it again and again, sometimes with results, sometimes without results, but more results than not, and that's why it lasted for thousands of years. That's why they continue to do it. You think it is perhaps foolishness. It's pagan. You know what it is? It's consciousness over physics. They knew it because it worked. Gaia is more receptive right now to these kinds of things than ever before. Ever before. A group like this can change the weather. If it is appropriate, and there are so many things that Gaia will weigh into this, if it does not rob from another place, if it's time. This planet is benevolent for you. Tree hugger, I want you to resound to this. What do you feel when you're out there with the divas? Can you feel them when they're showing themselves to you, when they want you to see who they are? The consciousness of Gaia has attributes constantly that are giving back to you. And you call it Mother Nature. Isn't it interesting it's a woman? Isn't it interesting? All things good born from the planet, from a feminine energy, just like here. Question. Let's apply it to humans. Now you have a group of light workers that are all praying for one thing, the healing of a human being lying in a hospital bed. Now it gets tricky. Have you done that before? The answer is many of you have. You have a relative or a friend who is in trouble, and you're going to send them energy. You're going to see them healed. I would like to explain what happens to that energy right now in the simplest way I can. And my partner, I want you to go slow because this is new. I want you to understand the benevolence of it, the appropriateness of it, the beauty of it, and why it doesn't always work. Because as many times as you've done it, you know sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. Prayer has consciousness. Meditation has consciousness, and those consciousnesses are energy. Just like the electricity you can measure in an amp meter, there are other meters of consciousness that can measure it, and it's quantitative. It actually has attributes of measurement that have not been invented yet. It's energy. And here you are gathering. It's an interesting attribute about consciousness that is multidimensional, that it does not follow the rules of linearity. That is to say, when two or more get together, it is amplified in an odd curve. Not exponential, but similar to it. It's part of the math that you don't know yet. It's a base 12 equation, and it's a measurement of consciousness. You're focusing, you're seeing the healing, and here comes the energy. It was developed from you, you sent it. You didn't create it. It has come from an engine that has to do with a central source, and it comes through you and is sent to the individual. So the first thing that happens, the energy hits what would call a potential membrane of manifestation. It's ready to go, but it has to pass through this membrane. That particular membrane is hooked to the physics of the consciousness of the healee, the one in the bed. They got to believe it. They've got to believe it. Oh, I didn't say they got to want it. Of course they want it. They may even give verbalization. Bring it on. I need it. I want the healing. But inside somewhere, there is something that says, but I don't believe it'll happen. Because they haven't committed to it. They haven't opened their pineal. They haven't connected it to the source. The source is missing. You've got to have a circuit. The energy hits the membrane and sees the consciousness is not then compatible. It's not compliant with the rules of the physics. And the energy of the prayer is then dissipated through the membrane and goes somewhere else. That's all I can tell you. That's scenario one. Does this surprise you? That the one with the disease must be part of the circuit. Do you understand this? And then there are those who are part of the circuit. And I will tell you, the ones who are most part of the circuit are infants who cannot object with any intellect. And they're going to get it right away. I'll tell you, other animals are ready for the healing energy. They're going to get it right away. They can't object because they're wide open. The membrane of their consciousness is ready and will accept it because there's no intellectual objection or Akash that'll get in the way. Sometimes a human will be partially ready and some of it will get through. This is complicated. We're dealing with physics, formulas, energies. Does this disappoint you that we'd want to quantify prayer? I want to give you something to think about. God is the master physicist. This is not a puzzle. This is beautiful. And when you find out about it, you're going to be able to understand it so much better when you can measure it. You can actually show it to the one in the bed, give them instructions on how to open the membrane, have it sail through, have things happen that never happen now, only because you're not aware of the beauty of the numbers. Oh boy, but can you send energy? And you do a good job of it. Dear ones, don't ever stop. Something is starting to happen on this planet to people in trouble. They're starting to believe it. They're starting to get it. They're starting to open what I would call that consciousness membrane, the compliance, what I will call of the protocol that you're sending them will be compliant to the receiver that they are, and they will understand at a physical level, and the chemistry will change inside, and there will be a healing. Don't go away puzzled by this channel. I want you to go away enhanced with the beauty of this. The beauty of this. I just gave you a snapshot of the future. I just explained prayer. I just explained meditation. And the indigenous of this planet know it. The monks in India know it. Those who have studied the ascension process 1,000 years ago knew it. You lost it. And now it's time to get it back. Dear ones, it's about belief. It's about owning that which is spiritual within you and changing yourself. Getting to a point where you get out of the doldrums of low self-worth and into that which is celebrate your life every day. How many of you have the courage to do that? Wake up, put your feet on the floor, and say, thank you, God, for my life. It's making a difference on the planet. This or something better today for me. I'm ready. I'll tell you, we're listening. And so is your body. I'm crying in love with humanity. And so it is.